In today's fast-paced global business, especially in tech, the need for innovation and performance has never been higher. What if I told you that up to a half of your technical team could be neurodiverse and they had exactly the right type of problem-solving creativity to secure your competitive advantage? In this episode, we discover how AI is helping to make work-life better for the people on your team who may be quirky and different, but are actually also the smartest, most curious, and most determined to find an answer to your clients' problems. Welcome to the Experts Speak English podcast. Together, we'll discover how to talk yourself into an international career without the bullshit. Every business conversation that you have takes you closer to or further away from your goal. So this show is about getting both informal and formal conversations right, whether that's a confidential personal chat with a key player on your team or on the stage in front of hundreds of industry experts. What you say and how you say it counts. And if leadership is your goal, then being able to influence people will accelerate the process. At the end of each episode, I give you an opportunity to try out what you have just learned on the show. Perhaps you'll be brave enough to rise to Coco's communication challenge. You'll get to try out one of the tools, techniques, or tips at work, because listening about leadership and leading are not the same thing, honey. I'm Corinne Wilhelm. I'm a corporate communication coach with almost 25 years of experience of helping leaders to secure the career that someone with their knowledge and experience deserves through intentional communication, intercultural awareness, and the confidence to really show up as the English-speaking expert. So, let's get cracking, shall we? Welcome to Web Summit. I have a fabulous guest for you today, and I will be introducing Anna Connor Lakomy about her startup. Now, yesterday there was a fantastic session, wasn't there?
Yes, indeed. Yes.
And it was about creativity and about how it's not normal. And what she meant by that was, the people that are being creative aren't normal, whatever normal is, right? And this lady was Kim Laurie, so big shout out for Kim. I think I was sitting next to two girls that I went there with who I just happened to meet, during the day.
Sure.
And they were like, I didn't realize that. And one of them was going, I do that all the time, that's how I use AI. So it was a real eye-opener, not just for the neurodiverse people in the audience. She said was only about half of the audience, and the other half of the audience were probably neurotypical. So she had tips and tricks. Then I joined the Polish WhatsApp group that we have here, because on the first day they said that this year there's an increase in Polish startups but a decrease in German ones. So let's find out what that's all about. So Anna, tell me first of all a bit about your startup.
Sure. So my startup's called Brain Architects. We're an alpha startup this year because we are socially impactful, I guess. So what we do is we try to create solutions that would be neuro-inclusive for the organizations. We primarily focus on B2B market just now, but we also hope to move to B2C so we can actually help the individuals as well.
One step at a time.
Exactly.
Very
one
good.
Step at a time. We've been working with my business partner as consultants for years in Poland, and what we do is we apply the cutting-edge neuroscience into business and self-development. And we've been getting more and more requests about helping neurodiverse people in the companies, developing the neurodivergent support groups and employee webs, etc. There is a really big gap in diagnostic tools and in the ways we can actually manage those communities.
Yeah.
Because even if you get
it's actually really hard to get a diagnosis, let's face it.
It's very hard to get a diagnosis.
I don't know where you're living, right? But in Germany and in the UK, sometimes you'll be waiting a year, 2 years, 3 years to even get to see a doctor. And that's just the start, right? So getting a diagnosis is a year before we actually have the diagnosis. So when you get to the beginning of the queue, I remember thinking, right, that's it. But actually it's a bit more long-winded, isn't it?
Absolutely, and you're basically talking about just getting the diagnosis, and we are trying to tackle the problem what happens after you get the diagnosis and that you have
it's a
to
big
climb.
gap.
Yeah. I was actually one of those people that I got diagnosed with my ADHD after my son was born.
Right.
It was never a thing for me my
It's
whole
often
life.
the case, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously there's multiple reasons for it. It's not just that the environment around you changes, but it's also the oxytocin levels that basically manage the dopamine. So it's, you know, neurobiology plus the environment that sometimes hit you. So I got diagnosed with the ADHD, and basically what I got was you can either take medication or just educate yourself and try and get through it. And that is it, you know, when you talk to a psychiatrist.
Goodbye, good luck.
You know, exactly. But you don't really know what the problem actually is. So I spent myself a year researching what my problem with ADHD is. And so we realized...
And did you find when you were doing the research, a lot of people talk about the symptoms, like how it affects them, but they do not tell you what to do about it.
Exactly, and also the symptoms are still not the roots.
No, that's the surface level. That's what.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's still a step between the diagnosis and the actual symptoms, and this is what we were trying to research. So we're both, you know, researching neuroscience. So we found that executive functions tends to be that filter. So basically, executive functions, for everybody who's not familiar with neuroscience or psychology, they're basically your director. So they basically tell you how you plan, how you organize,
right, or how you don't organize,
or how you don't organize. Exactly. Or both of them can be either do or don't. Exactly. Emotional regulation, that's another big one, right? So there's a very sort of common model that's being used that's called Goldstein model, and they have Goldstein model. It has 9 executive functions that you can measure. And then there's also another part of it, which is sensory processing. So if you look at all the senses, and we have about 34 senses, not 6, so there's lots of them.
Right.
You know, it's not just hearing, seeing, but it's also interoception, the way you feel or not feel your body, right? And this is the most common thing with neurodiverse people, that they can actually have something that's called hyperfocus. So usually our focus should last for about 3 hours. But if you have ADHD or autism spectrum, it can last for hours, right? So
and then you're burnt out afterwards.
Exactly.
It's like hits you like a wall.
Yeah, because you can't feel what's happening to you. You don't know if you're hungry, if you're cold, if you're tired. You don't
really function because you're in the zone.
Yeah, exactly. You just focus on this one thing. It's something that we call mainly in ADHD, but it's the same with autism. It's an interest-based nervous system, right? Because it gets obsessed and fixated with a specific topic. That's why it's so powerful. Talking about the creativity.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's exactly that.
You know, you can see it as a risk, but you can also see it as an opportunity if you have the right mindset.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're trying to measure both sides. We know that there's people that are hypersensitive, so they will more extremely, or people who are hyposensitive, so they feel way less and they need more stimulation and they're looking for stimulation.
And you know, the thing about that is, if you are like that, it's very exhausting, right? Because you are taking everything in, there's no filter, and then at the end of the day, you're like, or not even at the end of the day, before your meds wear off, you know, you're often feeling like, oh my goodness, you know, like, too much.
Absolutely. So you're basically tackling the problem here, because we've realized we have to measure all of those elements on a subjective level. So we need to know obviously what people think about their problems. Do they see it as a problem or not? But there's also the objective measurement, where we actually measure all of those elements, and we can tell you you're within the norm, you're under, or you're above. And so that gives us a graph, basically a visualization of your neurobiological profile that then allows us to measure the gap between your perception and the objective measurement. And the bigger the gap, the higher risk of burnout. You know, very quickly, when we started selling this and talking to companies, they very quickly came back to us and said, why is it just for neurodiverse people? We actually have the same problems, you know?
Yeah.
So
and it's the same if you look at schools, right?
Exactly.
Very often, if they went back to the roots, like the pedagogical roots that make you a good teacher, you will be inclusive by design.
Yeah, exactly. So there is even this concept that's called universal design. We worked with some neuro architects in Poland. Universal design is something in architecture that basically means we're not remodeling the space just to fit in the people with disabilities, but we're actually creating spaces that can be easily accessed by everybody. So even if you say, you know, like basically if you have a ramp instead of stairs, that doesn't exclude people that have legs, right?
It just includes. It's actually quite nice going up a ramp.
Exactly. So it includes everyone, right? It's a simple solution.
Yeah,
you know?
it's a simple solution. Yeah. In fact, I should have worn a different T-shirt. I have a T-shirt at home saying, "Inclusivity hurts no one."
Exactly.
Yeah, it's true.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So, how exactly then are you helping? What exactly do you do to do that?
With this tool, either for people who just have issues with they're close to burnout, or they struggle with focus, right? Or they have some mental health issues and they have no idea what's happening. All the things that we're measuring are below the surface. So they're not behavioral.
And you probably don't know you're doing it or not doing
exactly,
it.
Exactly. So you receive all the information. You know, the statistic that I always share with people is that there was a research done by Anna Connor in MIT in 2021, and she said that our brain daily receives about 35 gigabytes of information.
Right.
And you know, there was research done last year in UK actually that already said it's 75 gigabytes.
Oh, okay.
So that's 4 years, and we've doubled the amount of information.
Well, we have a lot coming at us now, don't we?
Exactly.
With all our devices.
Exactly. It's coming from everywhere, even Websummit. I love the event. But it's exhausting.
It is.
It's exhausting, and it's mainly exhausting on a subconscious level because you're just receiving all this, you know, stimulation from lights, from noise, from
music.
You know, so it's really, really exhausting to your body, and you can be extremely smart, but you're still gonna, you know, at some point your brain's just gonna shut down. So
and can I just touch on something there? So very often in companies, there's this kind of unspoken misunderstanding that, you know, having to help somebody who is less than you, because they have one of these issues, maybe it's being dyslexic, having Tourette's, ADHD, autism, all kinds of things, blind, deaf, you know, whatever. That's not necessarily going to slow you down. That will actually long-term speed you up because you have more innovation, more productivity, you know, so it's good all round. But it's actually at the moment, as she explained yesterday, it's the big companies that are taking advantage of it. Okay, they've got more dollars behind them, right? But it's actually not a case of dollars. A lot of the time it's to do with mindset, right? And that doesn't cost anything.
Absolutely, and we actually have clients in Poland that have already implemented recruitment strategies for neurodiverse people because we know that's something we know we do have to make it differently, right?
That's absolutely the case, absolutely.
The one thing that I still remember, one of our clients said, a huge corporation, they've created this inclusion program for recruitment, and he said, the most important thing for me was to realize that when you ask somebody who's neurodivergent about their skills, you can't ask them, you know, what is your level of mastery of that skill, because they're always going to underrate themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to give them tasks. You have to actually check this because you're going to see, like he was giving examples of some mathematical equations, and she's like, you're going to ask them, what do you know about this? And they're going to say, oh, nothing. And they're going to actually ask them the questions, and you realize that they know 90% more than a professor at the mathematics. You know, and they were shocked by this at first, so they very quickly realized that you have to make hands-on recruitment instead of asking
What was the name of that company? Can you remember?
I can, but I'm not sure if I can talk about it.
Okay, all right then, no problem. We understand that.
Sure.
Okay, well, I'm going to wrap up now, but one last question I'd like to ask you about Polish startups.
Sure.
So at the opening ceremony, they announced that there were less German startups here this year, and as you know, I lived in Germany for 30 years almost, than there are Polish startups. Fascinating. So now I need to know, why is that?
Why? I'm sure there's many different responses to that question. One of them is that we definitely have one of the highly skills human capital in terms of IT, right? So people in Poland,
a lot more people are studying IT.
Yes, but also the level of the skills.
Right.
So like the quality of education and the quality of the skills is higher. I think there's multiple reasons for that. One of them is also that we just basically became the hub, the operational hub for many huge corporations because we were cheaper, Europe and the West world.
Okay.
So it somehow became our advantage.
Okay, great.
In the long run.
I'm glad to hear that.
Because, you know, people in Poland are very entrepreneurial.
And hardworking, right? I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know any Polish person that's lazy. Like all the Polish people I know are like eager beavers.
Yeah.
And they want to do it right, you know, no cutting corners.
Absolutely, that's very true. We do still believe that hard work is the way to do it, although it is becoming less and less strong because people
Society is evolving, that's fair enough.
In general, people I think are just a bit resigned. So this is the problem in Poland as well. But in general, I think what it did, it actually sort of helped us in a way because we started realizing that there's better ways, maybe smarter ways of doing work, you know?
Nice.
So people actually started looking, instead of working longer hours, how can I do it faster? How can I do it smarter?
Great.
So it actually boosts the entrepreneurship in Poland. And there's one factor I think that, because I happen to be a social scientist, so there's one factor I think that we've identified in mental toughness. If you look at the mental toughness model, there's one element that is control over your own life. And this is one of the factors that we always score the highest in Poland.
Right.
We score really low on emotional control.
Right.
So it's both basically, because emotional control basically means that you know what's happening to you, you understand your emotions, but you also know what you want to let out, right?
Right, okay.
So it
That's
could be
actually quite healthy.
that's extremely healthy.
Yeah.
I'm saying, and we struggle with that,
Yeah.
right? So you either don't allow yourself to be emotional
Oh, I see.
at all.
They don't let themselves.
Exactly.
Oh, right. Okay.
Usually it would be probably the problem with not allowing ourselves to be emotional, because we're very tough. Like there's no, excuse. Our kids always have to be very tough. To give you an idea, my son goes to a trilingual kindergarten. So there's a Polish, English, and Spanish, and he has an American teacher. And she said, they have a cobblestone that goes down from the school to the playground. And she said, this is actually extraordinary, and this is something I only see in Poland, that you allow the kids to actually work with the environment they find themselves in. That cobblestone would never happen in US, because that have to be a very clean, smooth pavement. Exactly.
Yeah.
Immediately have lawsuits, right? In Poland, what we do is we basically take down the rope. The kids, hold onto the rope, and you teach them how to go down that path.
Right, okay.
Instead of just removing the barrier.
So
right?
instead of removing barriers, you're
teaching
enabling them
yeah.
through barriers.
And that was beautiful.
Nice.
So I always talk about this, because I think it's a beautiful metaphor of how we work in Poland. It's sometimes counterproductive and it's exhausting to us, but it gives us the control.
Yeah.
So you feel in control of your life, and it helps you reduce the anxiety, I think.
Fantastic. And in Germany, there's not really a lot of support for young, upcoming businesses, even SMEs. Really, it's pretty much like, if you want to do it, do it. Is that different in Poland?
Yes, it's definitely changed in the last years. So we have a lot of different programs looking into Polish ecosystem. We don't have a long history, right? It's quite a brief history with that. Support is really coming. We have a lot of universities, a lot of VCs looking, to even from US, that are looking into what we do and how are the innovations actually going. And the one thing I think that's our strongest right now is the fintech. We even did the masterclass, as a Polish ecosystem on fintech, because we have incredible solutions that are not available anywhere else.
Yeah.
I sometimes is shocked when I go to US or I go somewhere else and I realize I can make a payment with my phone. We have something that's called Bleak payment, which you basically you share a code and you can just give the code to another person and they receive.
What's that called?
It's called Bleak.
Blick.
Yeah, nobody
Nice.
else has it, so it's quite incredible that you don't realize how
you don't
advanced
realize how brilliant it is until you go somewhere else.
Exactly,
right?
and all of that progress happened in the last 20 years,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of interesting stuff happening, a lot of support, but I think we still struggle with the amount of money in the market. So our investors are not as generous as the international or Western investors.
Okay, well, if you're a founder and you want to support some amazing fintech companies, if you want to get involved with the Polish society, then I can really recommend you checking that out. So, at the end of every episode here at Experts Speak English, being a coach and trainer, I like to keep you accountable. So, Coco's communication challenge today is to think about your own organisation, whether you are the CEO, the CTO, working in HR, or just a regular expert being brilliant at what you do. Take a look at your work schedule and space. What is it that you need more of? What is it that you need less of? And is there something completely different that would put you at the top of your game? If you manage a team, I invite you to speak to each person individually. Set yourself a timescale, maybe the next 2 weeks, to find out from them what it is that they need. Now, you can call those accommodations or the removal of barriers, like in servant leadership. It doesn't really matter. What matters is the open and honest discussion that you have. No judgment, just humility. By talking without judgment to your team, no matter what your role is, you could be freeing up some much needed headspace for more brilliance, innovation, and career satisfaction. In the process, you'll be giving your corporate culture some TLC. That's tender loving care. If this feels like a stretch for you, but you genuinely want to support the neurodiverse experts in your team, even if they're not diagnosed, then just reach out to either Anna or I to support you in this. Our details are in the show notes. All that remains for me to say is to have a fabulous week, and I look forward to speaking to you when I introduce another founder from the Web Summit about making knowledge invincible through AI. And remember, every conversation counts. Take care now. It's Corinne Wilhelm from Experts Speak English.